Welcome to CEO Interviews, a production of Gorecom, in which we take the time to speak with small cap executives about what's going on at their companies. With us today, happy to have him back, Marshall Gunter, CEO of Datametrex AI, trades on the venture exchange on the stock symbol DM for our friends in the US, DTMXF, and for our friends in Europe on Frankfurt under D4G. If you're watching this is our year-end wrap-up. Gonna have a great fireside chat. For those of you new to the story, look, this has been a fantastic year for Datametrix. They've got two great sides of the business that's taken place and has been executed really well. On the one hand, they've got the artificial intelligence-driven social media monitoring, discovery, and fake news detection. You know, that's the layman's way to say it. Clients there, Canadian federal government, U.S. Air Force, Lotte, the $2.6 billion Korean multinational conglomerate. They're doing fantastic things. And as a result of that security clearance, I don't think anybody saw that they're going to be in this business in January. But as a result of that clearance, they're well positioned with deep roots, both in South Korea and the Canadian government, to assist in COVID-19 test kit distribution. And they've signed really big deals with the likes of multinational mining companies, film and television companies. So they've done really well with that. As a result, they put up their Q3 numbers, record 9 months, record Q3. Let's talk about it. Marshall, welcome back, my friend.
Glad to be here, George.
Hey, before we go into numbers, start talking specifics, how happy are you with how Datametrix is ending off 2020?
Oh, I'm extraordinarily happy with it myself. You know, it's been a good year. So last year, this time, you know, we were in terrible shape, just to be brutally honest. I mean, I think the stock was at about 2 cents or maybe one and a half. And then, you know, we came in, we reorganized. We've cleaned house in a lot of our businesses that weren't working, doubled down on the AI, which we knew we could do something with. And, you know, as a result, right now we're up around 13, 14 cents, something like that. So over the course of a year, I'd say that's, you know, I'm very, very happy with that. As you were mentioning earlier, I mean, for Datametrix, it's been, you know, record-setting numbers this year. Just so in our Q3, you know, we did nearly $5 million in revenue. Over the past 3 quarters, you know, it's about 7.6, 7.7.
Both are records, right? Quarterly, that's a record quarter, and that's a record
quarter. That's a record 9 months. We've had unprecedented expansion in our artificial intelligence business. We just announced, you know, the completion of Ideas Stage 4, which is working with the Canadian government on a technology that we call SMART, which is social media automated reporting technology. And I'm happy to say it's complete, and we're rolling it out like literally right now. So you're going to see it in the next couple of days.
So let's talk about that, because I want to talk about the AI side first. That's in fact, that's how you and I started working together, because Gorecom has said that this decade, you know, our thesis here is this decade is going to be driven by the convergence of disruptive technologies like artificial intelligence, augmented reality, and so on and so forth. So that's why we started working with you. What is Ideas at the end of the day? You know,
Ideas is a government program, okay? And what they do is they look for various cutting edge technologies that they want to get involved with, okay? And so when they do the selections, you know, you bid on the contracts and you get selected through an RFP process. And once you know, when you give your solution to them, then they fund it, right? And then they work with you to realize that solution, because they know that they're going to be able to put this technology to, you know, to good use. So prior to that, you know, we've worked with, you know, over the past 5 or 6 years, we've built up our product, you know, directly with the Canadian government, with, you know, defense research and open source intelligence and other branches of the Canadian government. So they were very familiar with us. But what SMART does, and why they were so interested in it, is they put out a call within the Ideas umbrella, so to speak, talking about making sense of the noise. That was
There's a lot of noise out there, right, Marsh? I mean, social
exactly.
media has got, even for me, I grew up on discussion forums. I've been deeply involved in social media, and man, it's getting noisy.
Yeah, and so this was, at the time we were working, with the Canadian government on foreign actors and their influence in the Canadian elections. So there's a paper about that that was published with NATO on our website, about various topics within the 2019 Canadian elections, right? So think, mining fake news for the elections. That's basically what it is. So we were involved in that, and then we saw this making sense of the noise. And one of the things that we brought to bear was we were already weeding a lot of that out, right? So allowing people to, focus on the analysts to, focus on the propaganda itself, or focus on, what the real messages are, that, by pulling all the propaganda out of the narratives. And, this works not just on social media, but it works on standardized media too. So you can target, various bad actors, or known sources of propaganda. One of the big ones is they see some of the different Russian television back stations. You can point it at them. If you want to look at, say, Sputnik News or RT, you can point it there, and you can pull out, this is proper messaging, and this is a bit, not so. Yeah, this is suspect. So we were already doing that. And so we applied, and we saw an evolution of our product in the fact that it's not just the ability to make sense of the noise, right? Because there's just a deluge of data out there. Nobody can keep up with it. There's no analyst or a group of analysts on Earth that can do this quickly, right? And they just can't. It's too much information. But one of the things we wanted to do with our product, and this gets into our strategy long term, which we can talk about later, but we wanted to make it a lot more approachable, right? Because we've got crazy powerful tech, but sometimes that means it can be crazy complex. And, that's okay when we're being deployed with, Canadian Armed Forces or US Armed Forces.
Yeah, they can handle that.
Exactly, they can handle it. But you deploy, into Canadian Tire, that's a different matter, right? Like they don't have PhD, data analysts just lying around like, the military will, or say, policing services and people like that, governments, they've got that stuff and they can use it. So that was
you
one
have
of
to find a way to automate it to really get to scale to George Com and ABC Widgets and XYZ Technologies at the end of the day.
So we were already talking about this, and then this RFP came up, so we took it and we won it. And they loved it.
By the way, that's no small thing, man.
Yeah, thank you. But they liked it too, for the sole reason that, yes, they do have these people laying around. They've got the data analysts, they've got this, but, sometimes to get to an actionable piece of data into a decision maker's hands, right? That's the analyst's job. Take all this data, make it actionable, give the summary to the decision maker, whoever that may be, in the tree, so that they can consume it quickly and make smart choices, right? So whether that's a military hierarchy or, anywhere else, this is the way it works. But sometimes even with the tooling, it takes several hours for an analyst to pull all that apart. Think if, just to give you an example, one of the crisis events we covered, and we've seen this, was we were deployed with NATO, and there was a frigate called the Helgengstad that listed and started to sink. And so just within 15 minutes of that event coming out into the media, there was over 100,000 different posts worldwide in social media on that event. 15 minutes, that's all it took. Boom. So no analyst can consume that in 15 minutes. But with SMART, you can. And that's the idea. So
what kind of cost, by the way, what kind of cost? So that's obviously very, very powerful. What does the cost look like? I'm assuming there's a scale there, right? Smaller companies, is it the amount of?
Yeah, absolutely. So the cost will be out just shortly, but it is scaling, and it mostly has to do with how much data you consume, right?
How much what?
How much data, right? How much data are you consuming through the system, right? So for instance, if you wanted to monitor something minor, or, you know, maybe there's news about Tesla in Canada. Okay, there's not a lot of news in Canada about Tesla. That's trivial, right? But if you go on, just say, let's say I want to look at, oh, I don't know, Facebook and Twitter, and you type in Donald Trump, you're going to get the flood.
You're going to get the Library of Congress.
Exactly. So, you know, it'll scale with the amount of data you want to process, because that's what drives our costs, right? But again, it not only shortens that time to insight, it also automates a lot of it and makes it more approachable, right? So now, you know, you don't need to have an analyst in play to bring those actionable insights out. So we can go forward and we can, you know, talk to airline industries. We can talk to, you know, manufacturing companies, all kinds of people.
You can talk to potentially, Marshall, you could talk to public companies, right?
Absolutely.
Hey, you want to know what everyone's saying about you, and you want it all wrapped up, and with this is the product.
Yeah, and it works with it not only works with the monitoring portions of the solution, but it also works with our discovery engines, right? And that's where people, you know, that's what really sets us apart, is that discovery portion, right? You know, anybody can, there's a lot of monitoring tools, okay? But with monitoring, you got to know what you're looking for already, right? So
right.
You don't really need us to do, you know, monitoring, especially if you're just looking at trends, like popular trends. You can go to Facebook or Twitter or CBC, BBC, Fox News, CNN, whatever. You'll find it. You'll know what's going on. Okay, no problem. You don't need that. But we can tell you, you know, what's coming up in 2 days, or what's just trending underneath that's getting ready to erupt, that you need to be looking into now.
Before, and I would love to almost see in action one day. You know, maybe we can do you know, a live demo when you get a screen share or something. Not for any client's confidential info, but you know, any kind of hot topic at the time to watch how it works.
Certainly, absolutely. We've got case studies on this also, some really good ones I could share. But with that tech, you know, this opens up a whole new avenue that, you know, and a lot more verticals that we, you know, we can approach, and that, you know, we can successfully work with. And that's the idea. But even, you know, making it more approachable is good, making the time to insight, you know, and making decisions easier and faster to make, that's great too. We love both of those. But even now, the last step of it is that once you've set it up, it can be automated. So you don't have to do anything. It'll just email it to you if you like, or text it to you and say, okay, here's what you need to know. Bam.
So, okay, so the tech side is obviously fantastic. I mean, I'm already thinking about from the Agoracom point of view, can I use this to pick up trends in the small cap world and the TSX venture and the CSE? And I'm probably going to talk to you people off camera about that. So the technology is great. How are you going to commercialize in terms of what's your marketing plan? Is it partnering with big partners? Is it direct sales? Are you calling Agoracom direct and Canadian Tire direct and ABC Widgets direct? How are you going to go about rolling it out? Because this is obviously a fantastic tool. How do you optimize the monetization?
So it's a combination of those two things. This gets into a lot of what the next year looks like. So let me talk about that in terms of, you know, how we're rolling it out, how we're moving it through the next year. So as you know, and we've talked about this here before, in Korea, we built up a land and expand strategy to test our viability in the public or in the private sector, you know, because we were working with the public sector mostly as of, you know, last year. And so it's worked really well. That strategy worked tremendously. Like, we went into Latte, we landed a small contract. They loved what we did. So we expanded to more of their subsidiaries, and now we're in several of them. And
you're a preferred partner, right? You're on the
preferred partner in Latte, which is, again, helping that land and expand strategy, which then led to, you know, $2.5 million, project with Samsung, right? Who's an even bigger company than Latte. So we're in the middle of that with Samsung, and we're using the same strategy, and we're going to continue that. So we're going to start rolling these solutions into the contracts we already have, right? So look, we've put these pieces in place for you with this new tech. Look what it can do. So that's one portion of it. So we want to funnel the new stuff into the to the guys and land some of those larger contracts. But now, additionally, that we have that strategy, okay, and we know it works, and we've proven it, right, with two multi-billion-dollar corporations, right? It works. We're bringing that back, and we've been doing this over the past 4 or 5 weeks now, with sales funnels, etc. And we're going into the private sector markets back here. So Canada, United States, with this new tech and this new capabilities we have, we're going to be working in new verticals, working in new sectors going forward. Like I said, we can work in we can probably effectively work in retail now. We can work with airline industries. We can work with manufacturing industries. We can work with distribution.
Are there any verticals in particular that you want to focus on? Because yeah, you're right. You can go after multiple. Any ones that you have a top 2 or 3 verticals that you want that you're thinking of?
Certainly, we've got a couple of them, but that dovetails. This is.
And by the way, we haven't set this up, so because every time I ask you questions, this segues. So I mean, this is just free flowing.
Yeah, it's fine. So the easiest verticals are the ones we're working in the COVID side right now. And the reason is because we've got our foot in the door, right? So one of the hardest things about enterprise sales is getting in, right? Getting to the person who can make the decisions. Well, as you mentioned, we're already in with several large verticals, and that's due to COVID testing. So one of the strategies we're going to be, rolling out is let's leverage those relationships that we have, and leverage, the Rolodex that we have now, and see what we can do using those channels. It's like, in addition to the COVID test, we have this great product over here that you might be interested in. Let's have a demo. Let's show you, and we can show you what it's done for Samsung. We can show you what it's done for Latte. And get in that way. So those are the lower hanging fruit. And, once we get in there, we're going to, we're hoping to duplicate what's happened in Korea. Whereas the way it kind of works is, one company says, ooh, those guys have a shiny toy. Where did they get it? I want one, right? And so that's the idea. So as we move forward, we're going to be, the two sides of the business, right, are now, it's kind of coalescing. So
that's
we'll be able
interesting.
to leverage,
dovetailing into each other. That's really interesting.
Exactly.
And you've got credibility on both sides, right?
Exactly.
You've got credibility on both sides. So it's probably the easy walk-in just to get the pipeline going.
Yeah, exactly. We don't have to go through that cold calling. Right. It's just, I can actually pick up a phone and get somebody I know that can pull strings. It cuts through all the red tape. And that's really important in the sales cycle, especially in AI. The AI sales cycles are not short. COVID sales cycles are very, very quick because, you got to get it deployed. Most of the time when we have if we get called, they want us to deploy, if we get a call at 9 a.m., they want us to deploy by noon. I'm not joking.
Yeah, no, we know
fast. And but with the AI sales cycles, they're a little slower because this is enterprise business sales. So there's more to it than just testing and getting results. They have to build out a business plan. How are they going to leverage it? Where's it going to fit into their their future operations, et cetera? All that has to be tested and internally digested, and then we roll out, right?
But more often than not, Marshall, you can most likely show a great ROI. More often than not, say, look, this, because the world is data driven. If you have data, if you have powerful analytical driven data, then you can accomplish so much with it.
Yeah, and that's what, that's again, something we're going to be doing on, this side of the Pacific going forward. And we do have those examples now. So we've got great examples, and maybe we should do this, Christmas holiday treat or something. I walk people through those examples, how exactly this stuff works. Um, and we could do it here. But we have those examples in the private sector. We've got them in the public sector now with multiple companies, right? Like I said, multiple very large, billion-dollar corporations. And so that, having done that over the past year, I'm really proud of our team, and I'm proud of what they accomplished, because we now, last year we did not have what I would call a very solid proven business model, but now I can point to real success in the real world on, both the public side and the private sector, and say, look, it works.
And what I love about that side of the business, Marshall, is that that side of the business is going to grow. I mean, for the next 20 years, right? I mean,
AI is not going away.
Yeah, and I'm just saying 20 years because, in tech, who knows what's going to be here 21 years from now and how things are going to be being done, right? But this is going to be an expand. Would you expect that this be an expanding and growing business for over the next, okay, I don't want to say 20 years, but for the next 5 years, you're going to come after North America, you're going after Europe, you're going to go after Latin. The whole world is your oyster at the end of the day, right? You just got to.
Oh, of course. Yeah, of course. And, North America is not going to be the only focus too. We have contacts in Europe already, and again, a lot of that came through COVID, right? And they are very interested in the AI, now that they've got wind of it. So we'll be looking at that angle also, because at the moment, we work with all the big three European languages, right? So it's going to go out, and we'll be able to cover a lot of territory within the next year. So product expansion is there. You'll see a few more press releases about that before the holiday. So because we've got a couple other small surprises coming in there. But the big one is that Smart's rolling out. We're going to be rolling it out literally the next day or two. And it'll be on the website, and everybody will be able to read about it, and you'll be able to see what you can do.
Yeah, I can't wait to read about it, just see if there are any applications for us here. So that's that side of the business. Fantastic. Great. Let's talk about the COVID-19 testing side of the business. Man, a year from now, a year ago, is that amazing how things happen? I mean, a year ago, and I love the company a year ago. AI, great. Social media monitoring, analytics, getting information, creating data, fantastic business model. And then out of nowhere comes this business. Could you, in your it's not just that it happened, it's that you guys have executed so well. Maybe just because we're doing this recap, maybe just name a couple of highlight agreements that you've press released. And I know you can't say names, but hey, we signed a contract for this amount, the contract for that amount, just for people to kind of remind them of how great of a year it's been.
Sure. Yeah. Could I have foreseen it? No, I don't think anybody's foreseen this, right? But we're happy to have that side of the business. The one thing it's provided is a really steady revenue stream, right? So like I said, the AI business, it's a much longer sales cycle. So, when you see it, it goes zoom, zoom, and then you go for a bit, and then there's another big one, and then that's how it works. But with COVID, it's very steady. So that's been a real blessing for the business, but not for humanity. But
yeah, obviously, but you're helping, right? Look, you don't want to be a profiteer from it, and you're not. No. But at the end of the day, a problem has arisen, and Datametrex has security clearances in Korea, South Korea, and Canada. You've been able to make a difference.
Yeah, I'm glad to say that we have, and it rolled out, and it was a big scramble in March and April when it was coming, because everybody now had to become an expert virologist to get it to work. And so the mining sector was the first to really latch on, And I think one of the reasons is they have been dealing with, you know, infectious viruses for decades, especially if they work in, like, you know, say Africa, right? And a lot of the companies that we deal with are global. So, you know, worth billions and billions of dollars. So they'd seen this before and they knew what to do. And they already had facilities in place in a lot of cases, you know, because it's a virus. So the way you test for it is identical to testing for HIV, Ebola, influenza A, influenza B. You know, you just take the influenza kit, you take it out of the machine, you put it in the COVID test kit, and bang, you're off and running. You know, so those guys were already established. So, you know, we made multiple sales with them, and we continue to do business with them. So, you know, millions of dollars in sales there, still going, still talk to them, and, you know, they're still rolling things out worldwide. But then, you know, and if you were here, everything shut down for a couple months. Nobody knew what to do. People were panicking. Government started rolling off stimulus checks. But then, you know, people needed to get back to work. So what we did at that point is start, you know, we brought in people who knew various other sectors really well. So in particular, the production industry has been a big boon for us. So we had a few people that we knew that have been working in production for decades and brought them on to assist us along with some medical personnel. And we brought them onto our advisory board, right, to tell us, you know, what to do. Now with the productions, they've come in because, you know, TV and film is big business, right? This is the companies we're working with in the, you know, in those production houses, you know, range from, you know, smaller productions that you might just see, you know, for TV only, that type of stuff, all the way up to companies that are worth hundreds of billions of dollars. And those are, yeah, top of the food chains, right? Like way up there. I mean, these are companies that everybody's got in their living room, right? They're all sitting right there. You flip on your smart TV and there they are. So, but these things have continued to expand. It's been a lot like with the miners. So they try, you know, they start with one show and then they add on, bang, bang, bang. And one of the things that, you know, we've been, and what's made us successful in there is, you know, we're able to do a little bit of catering and stuff to these different markets and to these different productions in particular, because they all have different needs. Everybody has a different business model. And even within these larger, you know, companies we're talking about, every division, so to speak, or every production or film or however you want to, you know, divide it, they've all got slightly different needs. Nothing's uniform. So we've been able to do that. And so they've been very happy with that. And, you know, we've put some of these press releases out as those contracts roll out. They were, you know, worth tens of millions of dollars, right? As they're fulfilled, right? So
and typically what I'll fulfill 6 months, because it's not like they're year round. Usually these productions run for 6 months at a time or something. So
they usually run 6 to 9. Most productions run 6 to 9 months for the
right.
bigger companies, right? So the general, now this is general. So, you know, there's always exceptions, but the general ebb and flow is, you know, everybody starts ramping up around September-ish. Some people don't ramp up till late December, but then by, you know, Q1, Q2, everybody's going in full swing and they're getting all their production done, you know, et cetera. And then they bring it back down over the summer, gets a little smaller, or towards the end of Q2 gets a little, you know, everybody gets done. Then it's kind of, there's a little bit of a quiet period. Some of them work over the summertime. Of course, with COVID, there may be a lot of people working over the summertime.
I would think there's going to be a lot, Marshall. Just look at what's happened with schedules, the NBA, the NHL. You know, everyone's going when they can now. You don't have the luxury of saying, well, let's take the summer off. If a production of the Gorcom TV show hasn't taken place, it's got to happen in June. It's got to happen in June. You know, that's just the way it is.
Yeah, and you know, there's probably going to be a lot of pressure coming from corporate offices about this. Is, you know, the theaters are closed and there's no movies coming out. The TV shows are being late, as you said. So, you know, the revenue streams for them are not there, and so they're going to want to get things done. But that, you know, that's general ebb and flow of this, and, you know, it continues to expand, right? Like when we become preferred partners in those areas, they bring more and more productions on. So
So do you expect, because devil's advocate, obviously there's big talk about vaccines, which would be great. That'd be great for society. I think none of us disagree with that. But at the same time, we're seeing that, they're even surveying military personnel, let alone the general public, where you're seeing 50% of the people won't take the vaccine. So has the vaccine chilled the testing side of the business at all?
Not at all. It's had zero impact right now. I'm no epidemiologist. I'm not a doctor, so nothing I can say can be construed as medical advice. But from the people we work with who are in the know, right? They're not expecting a lot of change in the next year. There's all kinds of issues around this. There's just getting everybody vaccinated is one, but even producing enough vaccine for 7 billion people around the world is going to be another. And then the efficacy of the vaccine is yet to be proved in the market, so to speak. And
you got half the people that aren't even going to take it.
Then there's that.
Yeah, that's a big deal, right? I mean, vaccine's only as good as the number of people are going to take it if it sits on the shelf.
Yeah. So I can't predict how many people will or will not take it, but everybody knows there's this anti-vax contingent of people out there prior to COVID. And then, if you go on any type of media now, there's also speculation around this, of how do we know something they rolls out that fast is going to be safe? But time will tell, and I'll let the experts speak to that because that's not my field.
No, but you're giving us feedback from the customer.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're not giving us your own personal opinion. The customer's telling you we're going full steam. They're
going full steam. They're continuing to go full steam. In fact, and they're ramping up. So they're taking more and more, right? So I don't see this slowing down anytime soon.
Devil's advocate, Marshall, can you keep up? Is there a cap at the end of the day?
Well, right now there's not. We have enough capacity to keep up, and we've been actively working with our partners on this to increase capacity. So at some point there's going to be a cap. That's definitive. I mean, we'll literally run out of physical space and have to expand. But we can always do that. If there's a need, we'll fill it. So right now, no, I don't see a cap.
Interesting. Interesting tweet that came out from Air Canada that mentioned you. And I think it's important to have this just because it's that third-party credibility. It's back on November 22nd, and we've got up on the screen now. But you can read it there. The state of Hawaii will only accept COVID-19 PCR from a certified clinical lab from trusted testing and travel partners. In Canada, those are a bunch of names and Datametrex AI Limited. I mean, what does it feel like, man, to be on an Air Canada tweet that you are a trusted testing travel partner?
We're pretty proud of that. So yeah, we are cleared to do the testing for the airlines, right? So we'll be doing that as travel picks up. So one of the things that's going on worldwide is, like Hawaii's trying to get their tourism industry back up and running. We're starting to see this all over the place. The Caribbean's looking at it, including like PAHO, which is the Pan American Health Organization that governs the entire Caribbean. They're trying to get a collective agreement up there. We're seeing it in other areas. Europe was, a lot of the more touristy areas in Europe are starting to talk about it. So, France was talking about it, Italy's talking about it, Greece, areas where people, areas where their economy is dependent on that tourism and are taking a big hit right now. So what we're seeing is they're rolling out their programs and setting up their standards, saying, if you get tested within, I don't know, hypothetically 48 hours before you get on the plane, and the lab has these certain accreditations and you can produce, paperwork to that fact, then you can say, go to Hawaii and not quarantine for 14 days, right? So we do have those certifications and we can provide that level of service. In fact, that's one of the things that's made us an attractive solution to a lot of verticals. Because right now, if you go through, labs that are working with public health, they can't get you that. There's no guarantee that they'll get it to you within 48 hours. It's usually, 4 days or so. And
And
that's
let's
not
talk
good.
about that, your lab partnerships, because obviously you don't have the labs yourself.
No. We, at the beginning, and, go through our old press releases, we made strategic partnerships with labs in Toronto and, in Vancouver and, in Alberta and, other areas to allow these things to happen. Because, Datametrix is a supplier of kits and stuff. We're not a lab.
No, of course.
I don't have
You need a
lab
lab partner,
technicians.
right?
Yeah, we needed a lab partner, so we've got them, and they have those certifications, and they've been, we're glad to have them. But it's very much a win-win situation for us and our partners. We bring in the business, and we get them a really good, rock solid supply chain at good cost, and then they run the tests and produce the results. So it's been great, and we're continuing to expand some of those partnerships right now. Where areas are needed. Like it's just now arisen that there's a need in Calgary. Okay, so we're looking at that right now. So we'll see how that goes. But previously there wasn't a need there. Now we're getting echoes of there may be needs there. So we're continually looking at those different partnerships. But it's been a real blessing to have them on board, quite honestly.
Yeah. I mean, and the bottom line is what I'm hearing, Marshall. We'll wrap it up there because we could keep on going because it's been a fantastic year. But is not only has it been a great year for both sides of the business, but it sounds like in 2021 things it sounds like it looks like marketing, product, everything is on the upswing, and that you're probably going into an even better year. Probably, we're not making projections or anything like that, but it looks like you're going to an even better year than this year.
Yeah, I think we're, seeing where we were last year this time and this year this time, I'm very, very confident that we have positioned ourselves well, both on, especially on the technology front, with, like I said, with smart rolling out and all this, we've made great strides forward, and, we'll be ready to hit those new sectors and new geographies next year, and just, hopefully this is going to be, another banner year for Datametrix next year.
And as a reminder for everyone at home, a lot of that is not just optimism, but the company has signed contracts that they've announced, and they're being executed. Even though the company had the best quarter ever in Q3, and the best 9-month period ever, and for the first time in the black on EBITDA. Those contracts are still being recognized in Q4, in Q1, in Q2. So it's not just hope and optimism. The contracts that you've got to backstop that. So
yeah, that's absolutely correct.
Congratulations. That you've had a great year, and not because the COVID-19 thing fell in your lap, also because you had already established the security clearances in Canada, in South Korea, with the highest levels of government, or around the world in some cases. So when the opportunity arose, and the Canadian government needed a partner, you guys were it. So, preparation equals success, and that's all on you guys. So congratulations for putting the company in that position, Marshall.
Thanks, George. We're really proud of the work we've done so far.
You've been watching or you've been listening to my podcast on Spotify, Apple, Google, your favorite podcast platform, to CEO Marshall Gunter of Datametrix. Trades on the venture exchange on the stock symbol DM for our friends in the US, DTMXF, and for our friends in Europe on Frankfurt under D4G. Look, you've heard everything and you've watched everything that Marshall had to say. If those of you who are new to the story need even more information, because we know there's a lot here, just get over to the Agoracom hub for Datametrix and take a look at the profile page. And we got everything laid out there for you in one snapshot, so you can take a look at it. Do your due diligence. AI isn't going away. I can tell you, AI is only going to become bigger and bigger and bigger part of the entire world. And Datametrix is there. And we know for now, at least, even with the vaccine conversations taking place, that testing and we've heard this not just from Marshall, but from other clients as well. Testing is still going ahead full steam, absolutely, because people don't see it as a panacea. It's going to be great. It's going to help society, but there's still going to be a lot of holes to fill, and testing is going to help, fill those holes. So thanks for joining us, everyone. Have a fantastic day. See you next time.